This is season 9, episode 5, number 353 of the Decoded podcast. Sometimes, Chris, when you're speaking, I'm listening. Sometimes. And you drop words that stick. So this morning you said the word chore. And then I thought to myself, where did that word come from? And I looked it up. Because
Mm,
sometimes when I hear you talk, you say certain words, and I think to myself, this word is strange in my brain. I want to
mhm.
know more. The word chore originated in American English around the mid 18th century as a variant of the older English word char, which meant an odd job or a turn of work. Char itself came from Middle English share and Old English sere, both referring to a turn or occasion, ultimately tracing back to the Proto Germanic and Proto Indo European roots related to bending or turning. That's where the word chore comes from. So now it's just there.
That's good. That's good. Did you use that word as a kid? Did you have your
Oh yeah, we had
job list
chores. Yeah.
or yeah, chores? So your parents said chores. You have chores to do.
Well, my parents didn't say chores.
So
Like,
what? That's what I was going to ask you. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you're like the Proto-Germanic, Proto-Indo. What is the word? Is there a one-to-one translation into Lebanese,
That
or like what would the word? Would they just say it in English? Go do your chores. So you know what I'm saying?
they wouldn't even use the word chores. I
Like clean the bathroom, Roland,
I would
or something
just,
like that.
yeah. So what happened? I'm I'm gonna struggle with this because it's a long time ago and I just don't remember. But my sister and I had jobs every Saturday. We had our jobs to do. They
Hmm.
were known as chores, like to everybody else. To us, it was just so. It's hilarious. One week it was hard floors and bathrooms or vacuuming, and we'd switch it every week. And so one Saturday, I would be doing the bathrooms and mopping the floors, and my sister would vacuum. Then the next week, I would vacuum the whole house, and she would do the bathroom and the floors. Now, what's hilarious about this, what I kind of wanted to get to, was that my father was a bit of an old school guy, and he had a little bit of the mentality that that certain jobs were for women and certain jobs
Hmm.
were for
Hmm.
men. And I'll never forget the one day in the kitchen, he was talking about this. And I was like, there's something broken with you, Dad. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you see me mopping the floors and cleaning the bathrooms every second Saturday. You don't say to anybody, why is my son doing a woman's job? And yet here you are spouting, there are jobs for men, jobs for women. Like, it was one of those moments where I looked at him and I said, you could have saved my rear end from cleaning bathrooms as a teenager, but no. You know, the the efficiency and the luxury of having your child clean the bathrooms outweighs in some ways your traditional sense of what men and women should do.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it was just one of those moments where I caught my dad like off guard with his cultural perspective, I guess.
Hmm.
It's interesting. Anyway, that's what got me when you drop the word chore, and it's like I hopped in the DeLorean and I was back. I was back into the past. Anyway, yeah, chore. No, I had chores. I had chores.
I'm trying to think of what we called it as kids. Like, and I get it. It all kind of circles around the same. Because the updated term, broadly speaking, in our house, is family jobs.
Hmm.
Like that's what we call it, family jobs. So it's the things that bust you out of your little mind space. Like the only thing that you're responsible is the kind of stuff within your reach, like your room, right? Or brushing your teeth. I think it's funny. It comes a little bit like there's probably even some stoic seasoning in on that one. That idea of this the you being a contributor to your community. right? And the fact that you've got to remain in connection with your community. And one of the ways that you can do that is through service. This idea of service and service kind of slash duty slash family need. It's funny how it's become more and more accessible as a discussion in our house. And I think as you know, as the little humans turn into slightly bigger humans, they are more aware of their impact on the collective. So they now see how when they don't take care of a thing, it sort of butts up against somebody else's sort of a thing. And then it opens up to discussion. Like if one person's taking care of everything, then everyone else's wheels are greased. They can just go about their day, no problem, no suffering, no whatever. But when you start a discussion like, yeah, you didn't finish the dishes last night. So now I'm coming down. I have to start prepping food for the week. I now have to wash dishes before I can start getting that food ready. So your lack of a plan changes my plan. And really, the plan that my plan has become, and Karen's as well, let's say the adults in the house, has become probably no less complicated because it's still the logistics of being a parent, but it has become lighter because we say clearly, you have to take care of your work. Like there's no more space anymore for you to be able to just kind of flow through the house here and for it to be a revolving door. You move through, you create impact, you create mess. It is now your time to start, I guess back in the days of picking up after yourself. It's that idea that you are now a contributor to the collective. You are now a contributor to the whole. And we even start to say things like if the kids are craving to go get sort of an ice cream, like I'm more prone to do this. This is just one example. I'm like, are you treating? And they'll sometimes dead eye me. Sometimes they get it and they say, well, okay. And then other times they'll say, yeah, sure, I'll treat because they know they have, right? Karen and I, we give them allowance. They have scheduled things they have to do, family jobs. They have their sort of routines, the routine ones. They have so they get, you'll like this. You ready? They get their duties and they get their on calls, right? Right? They get duties and they get on calls. So the duties they know they pop up every week. The on calls, it's like you're gonna go take care of that. And just like you, just like me, we don't, well, to a degree, you have a proviso in your contract that's totally different than mine. But up to a point, it's all a part of our salary. It is the work that we're expected to do. I mean, you have the extra layer to it that over a certain number, there could be you get compensated for that. We don't have that in ours. I actually have to ask the question because I think if we go over our numbers, our minutes, as you sort of called it, um, I forgot to ask if there's a mechanism for the principal to override that, but there's no extra compensation. It's just a principal mechanism to override that. And in our like at school, if there is no one to cover the on call, the principal takes care of it. In the same way, if someone doesn't take care of their shit in the house, I'm doing the dishes, right? I'm gonna do it, which is also tagging into what you said about how you work with union. You do it and then you grieve it after the fact. And as I'm thinking about it now, that's such a parental thing. You put the shoes away and then you tell the kids afterwards that you put the shoes away. You clean up something in the bathroom and then afterwards you tell them to clean up in the bathroom. You don't often sort of do that mini protest and wake them up at 5 a.m. and say, why didn't you do the dishes? Come and do the dishes now. You just do the dishes and, and you grieve it afterwards. I love this. Duties and on calls. Everyone's got them in the family home as well. Duties and
Yeah,
on calls.
duties and on calls. Oh, bro.
I could, if I were still, so side, I got to go side before I go forward. Yesterday on my feed from October 3rd, 2020, the image that I drew for that day, so our podcast for that day, was of me. The image was of me, and it was on the brown. I was in my brown paper, scrap paper drawing face, and on the page was a was a picture of me where all there I have these hard black lines that are all kind of vectoring in from the corners like this. And in the center of it, it's a drawing of me going like this. Just kind of like, that pinching your the bridge of your nose like it's been a day. And it was hilarious. It came up on Facebook last night. I showed it to Karen. Look at this, 2020, October 3rd, 2020. I was having the same kind of morning or day or thoughts as I'm having right now, to where you're saying right now, if I were still scribbling, if I were doing the drawings for the pod, I would totally do something about duties and on calls. Like I find there's something kind of spark me up about that. It would be provocative to me.
So I have to say, I want to say, I have an understanding. I, man, a couple of times this week, I've come really close to the line where an individual shifts from being open and prepared to assist with whoever requires it to stepping over the line where you take a hard stance against I don't do any extracurriculars. And
Mm,
I don't do any extracurriculars because you guys can call me to do supervision here and you can call me to do an on call here. And because of that, what's the word I'm looking for? Because of that possibility, I'm not doing anything else.
mhm,
I'm tapped out. I've had enough. This week I had that thought a couple of times. I had that thought a couple of times and then I thought to myself, why are you thinking like this? Why are you feeling like this? It was like old Roland was kind of popping in. Old
mhm,
Roland, which is never really like ever since I've been a teacher, I've always been helpful. I think there were a few years where I worked for principals that were very difficult, and so I would still do stuff, just not. I wouldn't advertise. I wouldn't be like. I'd say to people, "Yeah, I can help with that. Just don't put my name on any papers because I don't want to support them in this building." But
mhm,
you tell me 12 o'clock, room 3. There's a meeting for the grade twos for whatever. I'm there. I'm there, but I don't need my name listed anywhere.
mhm,
I had that moment a couple of times this week. I'm like, I'm starting to see worlds colliding. Like I can see, I've been in high school now long enough to see things that I'm like, that doesn't work. So why do we keep doing it like that? Who's it serving? What's the purpose? What's the purpose? Who's it serving? Who's winning here? Because I'm not, so somebody must be, or else we wouldn't be doing this. And I don't, that sounds very adversarial, and I don't mean it like that. I just mean, I was supposed to be in two places at the same time on Thursday. And the people who put me in those two places, they're the ones that know. Like, they're the ones who did it. They're like, oh, there's a meeting for this here, just so you know. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a meeting for that there, just so you know. And I'll tell you which one I want to go to, but it's the wrong answer. But you want me at both. It was just
mhm,
there were here, I'll sum it up like this. There were a couple of moments where I was either on the phone with somebody or face to face with somebody saying, I don't understand why we can't just say what we need to say. And then it was silence because they didn't know how to respond to me saying, and I used myself in his example, if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, or I'm not doing something that I should be doing, I'm never going to know unless somebody tells me. And you don't have to be a complete prick about it, right? You can just say somebody needs to say it somehow. And if it's being delivered to me in a very flowery, kind way and I'm not registering, I'm not registering.
mhm,
But I'm now seeing systems, I'm now seeing um, processes happening, and everybody's looking around at each other Like, well, aren't you and aren't it's that Spider-Man meme where there's three Spider-Mans are all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
So I said two or three times this week, face to face or on the phone. I don't think that's my job. So if it is my job, someone's gonna have to say to me, no, that's part of your role.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it's not my job. I'm trying to get out of work. I don't want to step over a line. That's not
Hmm.
it. I'm like, that sounds like an administrator's job. The administrator makes that call, not me. And they're like, but even the administrator doesn't know. And I'm like, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. I'm not going to go and figure out what the administrator's job is. I'm just telling you what you're telling me needs to happen next. That doesn't like that's not I don't even have the connections. I don't even know the people. So how do I bring people to a table and get and start a new process when I said all of last year, if this stuff happened, I was never in the know. So if it was my job, I never did it.
Right.
So but then it opens a new door of, is it my job? And then it's silence. And I'm saying to people, is it my job? And they're like, well, we don't know. I'm like, so now we've got like, I don't know, over $700,000 of salary in the room and nobody knows what to do. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, somebody's in charge. Who's in charge of the group of us? That person. It's your job to figure out who does this. You're the one running the place. And then, yeah, so I found myself in a couple of those moments where I'm like, can someone just say it? Just fucking say it. Roland, you're a special education teacher. This is what you need to do because you're spec ed. And then if I don't know what to do, then I'll talk to my spec ed people and say, somebody guide me. I don't know what to do because I have connections there. I can send
Hmm.
an email. I can send an email to jump over four people because I have a personal relationship to that person up there on the fifth level. And
Yep.
I use it all the time. And I say to people, I say, hey, don't get your knickers in a knot. I spoke to so and so. I know so and so. We worked together back when we were peons back in the day. So I can say to this person, what the F is wrong with this program? How do I make this work? Like, I don't reach out official. I don't say, I am the special education teacher for so and so school and I require you to assist me because you're a supervisor. No, I say, hey, it's your buddy Roland from back in the day. Can you give me a hand? One on one personal stuff, not official business. And they always say
Hmm.
yes. So then I tell my people, hey, I reached out to so and so. We're buddies. Let me give you a heads up. It'll save you some time. You didn't get it from me. So don't go telling somebody officially Roland said. No, Roland doesn't have any authority to say. But Roland's telling you, hey, I messed around with this. I understand how this works now. Let me tell you, this is how it works. So you don't have to go through the same headache. You get what I mean? So if
Yep.
somebody tells me, you're spec ed, you do this, I'm making that call to the top spec ed person saying, I was told I do this. If that's true, yes or no, they'll tell me yes or no. And then I'll say, what do I do? Nobody here knows what to do, but I think you know what to do. So guide me. I'm at that place, man, because I I don't want to come home and have to do 8 hours worth of work. I'd like to do it
Yes.
at work. Um, and I tell you, now I'm off. I'm unhinged. Thursday, I got two new OSRs, bro. I sat in my office and I stared at them for 35 minutes. I was paralyzed by the process of what I need to do with those next because I'm just so tired of doing it. And I that's not like I hate my job thing. It's just I'm looking at them and I'm looking and I just printed my IEPs. It's a stack like this, bro. I have no money left in my printing. All my money's gone. So I've asked my head to do what she needs to do to get me back some printing credits. I have none. They're all gone because I blew them on my thousand pieces of paper. Um, so I'm looking at the stack sitting over here, all organized and ready for somebody to read. And then I'm looking at these two OSRs and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I
Hmm.
35 minutes I wasted on Thursday afternoon. Waste gone. I'm never getting it back. But I think I needed it because I just didn't. I was just like, two new ones, and it's not the end. There's more to come. Two new ones is nothing, but I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the situation. So what did I end up doing at the end of the 35 minutes? I reached out to parents with some questions. I'm like, I just need some. If you could give me a couple of answers, you will either solidify that I must process these immediately, or there's room to breathe because we need to figure some stuff out. And I'm sad that I wasted 35 minutes. 35 minutes is a lot of time in my world at work,
Mhm.
but it makes for a great story here on the Decoded podcast.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis, overthinking. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going straight to Chat GPT. Analysis paralysis.
It is a
Sounds like
thing. I
it
will.
sounds
I will.
like a spell.
Yeah. 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 It's Harry Potter, right? No, it actually is a thing. And in looking into my own mental wellness and thinking about, I don't know if I told you about this. I told Karen about this. So I am. I'm going into self diagnosis mode, but I do fit the overall profile of someone with adult ADD. Like I fit the profile, the way that my impulse, the way I'm impulsive, the way that I am constantly seeking the dopamine hit for some, and the dopamine can get a hit just because I leave something to the last minute and then I get this thrill of completing it at the last minute, or I overload myself with things that um, give me like this dopamine fatigue. Like I'm just like, how am state of mind, like, how will I ever make it through? And then I make it through and I'm like, Yahoo, I did it. Right. So there's a bit of a loop there. But one of the things that happens with me, uh, and I've mentioned to you about how I enjoy the chaos. That's the ADHD in me talking. The enjoying the chaos and trying to understand the chaos um, is as you say layered. The chaos that's brought to me and my brain recognizes, navigates, and actions against these patterns that seem really chaotic. If it's an externalized thing, that's the good version. That's where I'm in a mode where I'm working towards probably a more common good, an externalized good. I'm supporting someone. I can see a path through. It's also the what you would observe in me in a moment of, let's say, chaos or crisis, a flat effect. I can maintain a coolness, a calmness. I can see the pieces sort of moving. I can sort of make decisions. That was very much how I managed the restaurant back in the day. It's how I manage the community classrooms and the special education spaces that are overly energized and constantly stuff's coming at you from all different vectors. But there's a mirror world to that. So the mirror world to that is that if I'm not receiving this external input, then my internal life creates it for me. And when my internal life creates that chaos, that's where I get the analysis paralysis. That's where I'm on the inside. I don't have a way to kind of observe it. It's just happening inside of me. So IEP season is very much to a true type A person. IEP season is glorious because it really is just a procedural, to a degree, a procedural, like I'm talking about where we're generating the IEPs. It's a procedural marathon. So if you are well and you have time and space and you know how to use your post-it notes and have your checky ticky boxes, and I recognize this, and I have that, but I'm an artificial type A. It takes a lot of work, despite my understanding of having these organizational tools. My internal mechanisms rebel against that because they say, what if you do this thing differently this time? What might happen? And then I get this thrill, I get this dopamine. it's my constant refinement and how do I my idea of optimization sometimes gets in the way of reality. And I just get fascinated with the optimization. I will tell you, I have wasted hundreds of hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours, likely thousands in my career, in my career, doing IEPs and working in special education on optimizing things that don't need to be optimized. Version A was fine. I should have just kept using it. So I get like head shaker. How and why I do this, me doing this to me, um, because the anarchy doesn't always feel good. Sometimes I can justify it by saying, well, this is the process. Sure. And then another part of my brain is like, but you did it. This isn't you being responsive. This is you being destructive. And it's not good for you. It's not good for you. The last of my shake.
I love it. The shake. Um, Interesting moment this week as well, having to dispel a student's image of me, if that makes any sense. I was not in the room. I was working in my office space, and the phone rings. I answer the phone, and it's the monitoring room, and the teacher in the room says to me, "Hey, there's a student here who would like to speak with you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, who is it?" So they tell me who it is, and it's a student that I taught last year in my online one of my first online course ever. So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I know who she is. What's up?" And so they put her on the phone, and she's like, "Mr. Chidiak, I'm writing an essay in religion, um, and it's about you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Can I talk to you about a couple of things with respect to your faith?" And I'm like, "Sure. You want to do it over the phone or you want to come up?" She's like, "I'll come up to you." So she comes up and she says to me, I what she said basically, she's in awe of my faith.
Okay.
And I laughed. And she's like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "I don't know what you think I am. Like, what? Tell me more." She's like, "Well, when you taught me religion, you da 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 da." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, it was all virtual, right? Like there was no me standing in front of a room talking about my faith, telling stories. But basically, her thing is based on how you operated in that course and how you operate in the monitoring room, you seem
Mm-hmm.
like you are somebody of great faith. And
Okay.
she's like, so she's coming at me with this. She's like, "Tell me how you became a religion teacher." She's thinking something that is completely whatever she's got going on in her world doesn't exist in mine. So I said
Mm.
to her, "Let me tell you how I came to be a teacher, and let me tell you how I've come to be a religion e-learn teacher." And by the end of it, the look on her face was she was not expecting the story. And the story was that I never intended to become a teacher and I never intended to become a high school religion teacher, but the path led me here. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it, she's like, "Well, then I am right. You are a faith-filled person." I'm like, "I am, but like please don't think I'm walking around blessing people and like saving the animals from the forest and I know if you talk to my family, they'll tell you something different." And then at the end of it, I said, "Please, I beg of you, I would love to read this thing when you're done. Can I do that?" She's like, "Yeah, of course you can." And then she left, but I don't know. She left, and I had a big smile on my face thinking, it is awesome when you get an opportunity to actually get to talk to somebody about their life. There's a
Mm-hmm.
richness there that you don't know, and you never really know You never really know what leads you to where people don't know. So
Mhm.
people are looking at me and they're saying positive things, and I'm thinking, man, if you saw me in high school, you'd be like, who's this deadbeat kid that doesn't have a clue of what's going on and isn't engaged at all, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, well, I guess that's been part of my path to now standing with kids in this monitoring room, being their cheerleader, trying to help them out with whatever it is they're doing. Anyway, that was a really cool moment. I can't wait to read her paper about me and my faith. Um, I'm looking forward to that. That was interesting.
Definitely. I like that. I like where I'm able. I like having those moments as well. You know, talking with the students where you can kind of express your path. It's interesting to me how each time I tell the story, it changes slightly. Like there's something that either I'm just aware of. It's not stable, and I have this strange sense that even as I'm telling the story, that there's something about it that is a lie, kind of foggy, and on the fly, I'm filling in the blanks again. Right? I think this is. I mean, this is how memory works in general, right? And I'll say my intention is not to harm, so the lie is just a way to connect and build community and tell story and all that kind of stuff. But I am aware that some of the some of my origin stories, they're not stable. They're not stable. And how I feel about me now, or how I feel about myself in the moments just before I tell the story, ultimately change the color of telling that story. And sometimes it can be, there's something about it that sounds more hopeful or more connected or more um, serious or more structured. Like you're customizing, and each time you customize it, you change the story, and then you come back to it again. And it's like, how did I tell this story the last time? Because there are things that are in my head that have gone from life stories to like myth. It's like I'm almost like I'm spinning these stories about my past. I'm like, did it really go that way, or is this just how I tell the story now? It's fascinating when the kids ask.
I do appreciate that. And Gary says it's a gift when someone is curious about your journey and story. And
Hmm.
I have to say that I discovered at graduation last June, when all the teachers were kind of in the back getting their gowns on and getting ready, I had a great conversation with a teacher at my school, and it was totally like we're just standing there and we're just chatting, and I'm like, "Hey, tell me about your hood. Like, I see that you have a really cool looking hood. What's the story?" I'm pretty good at saying to people, "What's the deal? Share it with me if you want." I end up finding out that this teacher was a friggin' military officer, Canadian military officer, chaplain for many years. Was a teacher before that, joined the military, became a chaplain, officer, now back to teaching. And I was mesmerized through listening to him. Absolutely mesmerized. And I have to tell you, whereas before, when I'd walk down the hallway and see this guy, it was no big deal, right? It's like, oh, it's so and so. Now, when I see the guy, it's a different connection. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate getting to know the human behind the name and the face, because that's the other thing too. Who was I talking to? Somebody. Oh, I was talking to my buddy last night, my buddy Ray. He was asking me who I hang. He's like, "Who do you hang out with at work? Like, who do you joke around with or whatever?" I'm like, "I don't." And I could see this look on his face. He looked kind of disappointed. I'm like, "What's your problem?" He goes, "Like, what? You're not laughing, joking?" I'm like, "Not really, dude. Like, I go to work. I have stuff to do. I do those things, and while I'm doing those things, I'm running into people, right? Like there's a friendliness at work, but there's not a. I don't have a go-to. Like I don't have like I can't wait to sit down and chat with Jimmy about the day. I don't have that there, and he was like he didn't know what to do, and I said, well, what do you think's going on at school? And I said, there are people like that. I said, when I walk into the staff room to make a copy, there's a group of there's different groups of teachers that I've now seen. They hang, they hang outside of work, they hang at work, they hang at lunch, like they're tight. I said, I don't have that. I don't have that there, and I don't particularly need it. It's nice now and again. So all that to say, it's nice to hear some of these people's stories, because then it's like I feel a human connection, and sometimes that's required, because um, when you only see one side of a person, and if it's good, great. If it's bad, it's like, okay, can I get a little bit more to humanize you? Because right now you're not a human to me in a negative way, and that's not. I don't want to walk around with that kind of energy all the time. Um, but yeah, uh, yeah, I don't know. I want to share it.
I roll the
You
same way. Just to cap it, I roll the same way. I surprise myself when I participate in other people's humor at work. I surprise myself, like when I actually stop, and so I'm social. I'm you know I'm playful, but I'm just overly focused on purpose, like on the idea of purpose and presence and getting stuff done in the moment, that I don't invest in how was your weekend moments. I generally don't I just don't do it. And to the point where it's probably ridiculous and definitely comes off as being curt. Hey, how was your summer? My summer was great. And then I just move on with the conversation. I don't reciprocate. So I'll participate if someone brings it to me, but I don't extend. And every once in a while, I break that rule, or I notice a moment that I should break that rule, because I'm kind of reading the room, and I'll sort of have a playful moment and listen and laugh at the banter, and I dig it. But my mindset when I'm at work is I don't seek that stuff out. There are people that I can see that intentionally, because I see them hanging out there every day. I see them hanging out there every day, and they're just hanging. They're doing the water. What's it called? The what do you call that in the office? The water cooler conversations.
yes, yes.
I just don't participate in them. I don't hang around for the off ramp in the conversations. I don't do much of an on ramp into it. Um, I will send an email after being away for the summer. First thing Tuesday back after Labor Day, I say good morning and I go right into the action statement. I don't put in there, I hope you have had a great summer. I generally, it's, but and yet when I say that, like that's when I'm kind of paying attention. That's when I'm paying attention. There are times where I accidentally fall into it, and I kind of dig it. Like I do sometimes, but for the like 90% of the time, it's when I'm at work, it's purpose driven. Away from work, I'm not like that. I'm more, I'm still like that a little bit, but I'm more sort of open to the water cooler talk.
When so okay, Rochelle asked, do you find that these teachers that hang outside of work are those that are younger, don't have family responsibilities? I would say there's a mix. I would
Yeah,
say there's
I'd
a
say it's both. It's both
yeah.
shoulders, though. It's the ones that don't, and then the ones whose kids have grown up. But that pocket in the middle where they do have the families and they got to get to like, they're the ones that all of a sudden you turn around at the bell and they're already on their way to pick up their kids from daycare.
But at my school, I do see the pocket in the middle, because it started. It started when they were a little before they had the kids, and now they've got the kids and they're still engaged, but they have the family responsibilities, but they still engage with the lunchtime banter and stuff.
Mm.
It's just there's some really tight groups, and there's tight departments. And my department, I feel like the odd person out in my department, and my department's small, and it's not, I don't see a space for me there to be chummy with people. Like I don't see that. Um they would probably say I'm just, they probably have some not so nice words to use in a joking way. Like they would say, you just don't like us or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know you enough to like you or dislike you. We're fine here. We get along, but yeah, I'm not hanging with them when I have free time. I would argue I don't have free time. Like you said, like I'm there, I'm working, I'm trying my best to get stuff done, because I think I may have told you at one point or another, what I don't do today is going to hammer me tomorrow, because every day
Hmm.
there's something. It doesn't stop, right? Like, so if I get through my caseload stuff and I've met with 3 or 4 kids that I needed to talk to, so then, okay, I've got like 45 minutes now to work on other things rather than calling kids out of class. If I don't call those kids out today, there's going to be 3 or 4 more added tomorrow. And then my numbers doubled. It's like, how do I find, like, that's the kind of work I'm in. It doesn't, there's no, it's just every day it rolls, right? And it's like, if I don't stay on top of it as best as I can, I'm going to feel overwhelmed and there's going to be too much for me to do. So I'm
Hmm.
constantly working to make sure I'm knocking things off so that when the new things come, I don't feel overwhelmed. So it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I'm running all year. It's an ultra marathon. And I'm telling you, I'm already feeling tired. October 4, I'm feeling tired. I had the analysis paralysis. Man, I love this picture. I I love that I'm smiling, which is, I like it. It's not like dark magic.
Hmm.
It's light magic. Gary says he can relate. I'm not sure if he can relate to my experience or your experience, but when Gary came back to the school I work at to check in and go on a Blue Jays adventure with us, it was fun watching people talk to Gary. Gary's a good dude. Gary makes friends, but I don't think I'm doing that Blue Jays thing again, because that was too much for me. It was too much, man. Too many cliques on the bus. It was like you could see the groups getting on, doing their thing. So imagine you go from a Friday in the staff room watching them do their thing. Now you put them on a school bus going to Toronto. So thank God Gary was there. If it wasn't for Gary, I would have I probably would have found another spot to watch the game from. I would have watched the game and then gotten on the bus to go home without having to talk to a soul.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, that's work stuff. But I have goals. You know about I got goals. I've got some professional goals that I would like to fulfill before I retire, and
Hmm.
I'm working on those. I'm hammering away. Gary said I can socialize, but not one to be part of the group. We've got our own group. It's called BC for Men and Decoded Podcast. Um, yeah, see, that's my gang. That's my gang. Rochelle says no thanks to that. I have never liked cliques. And I can say, Rochelle. So, Rochelle, when we worked together, okay, I enjoyed the camaraderie of the gentlemen in the building. There were a few of us, but I also enjoyed the banter with you, right? Like I felt like at that school, at that school there weren't too many tight cliques at that time that I was aware of. I felt I could talk to many different people at many different times. Did I have my people? Yeah, sure. Right? Like the grade 8 teacher and I, we would we would talk sports and we would talk leadership and stuff, but I could easily talk to you about leadership as well. And of course, you would always educate me on being a vegan, and I could learn a lot, about that lifestyle. So that was good. Um, Rochelle says, exactly, Gary. And then Rochelle, says there weren't then. I would imagine now with a whole crew of young teachers and stuff at your school that it's different. Yes, I'm stereotyping. I'm just assuming the young teachers have all gotten together and they're doing their thing. Um, those were the days. I liked those days where it was like you go into work, you got one person or two people you can really drop bombs on, but then there was other people that you could have a conversation with in the staff room and it was no big deal. That's the one thing at that school that I felt was good. I felt it wasn't too cliquey there. Um anyway, so analysis paralysis, social time, being effective at work.
I wish with the analysis paralysis. So where that phrase came into my world was also just doing research into what are some what are strategies, tools, technologies that I can use to help me to manage ADHD.
Mm.
So I'm in the distractive, probably more in the distractive vein. Distracted, distracted. So I lose time. I can be distractive. I could be both, but I don't fire off to sort of like I don't at a at as such a high frequency. I would say I become more distracted than I am distractive. Um, in the general sense, let's say in my work and in my day, I'm I can be blurty, but I'm aware it's a little bit more tactical if I kind of just am jumping into conversations. I don't find myself accidentally stepping in it. But I do find myself accidentally in this mode of just spiral, like I've been kind of lost in this thought or in the paralysis mode. So I've done some of the research on it, and I've looked at medication and the process for all that. And it's funny how even that created another spiral of distraction. So me doing my own research, all of a sudden I'm like in 45 minutes, and I really haven't answered any questions. I've just added more thinking to thinking. So it's fascinating how meta this whole ADHD um, project has been as part of my mental wellness kind of plan, right? Just getting to know myself a little bit better, thinking about second half of life stuff, um, connected to, but probably would launch us into a completely different conversation. So I put that this I'm sort of springing this trap right now. Is that we it came up in class. I obviously provoked it, talking to the students about living to 100. Yeah, so if I'm gonna claw it back from the classroom experience because I don't want to get into that. I don't want to try and remember or fabricate how that story happened, but I did say those words in class, and the kids were like, "What?" Um, I do know I have the kids sending themselves an email every week to the following Monday where they're telling themselves what their intention for the previous week was. And I said it's an important work to live life understanding that an intention doesn't defeat you. It's a general direction that you would like that week to go. You can make it really specific, but then you're like doing a goal and a checklist. Intention is just here's the general flavor that I want to live for the next week. And then we talk about it on the Monday. How did the last week go? Kids are talking about, all the jargon that I throw at them, protect the weekend, blah, 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 blah. And somewhere in there, somewhere in that cloud, I mentioned living to 100. So now I'll bring it back to this ADHD thing and our book club, that the one book by Richard Rohr that's so the falling upward, falling
Mm.
upward. the whole concept of the second half of life and the type of work that's good for you in the second half of life. I've fallen into this kind of soft, um, self compassionate mindset of trying to understand myself better. And this whole ADHD thing is something that I've just kind of carried with me through probably really when I noticed it more so than anything was when I went to university. And trying to fill in some of the memory spots about decisions and moments in life that, in some cases, led to really cool adventures. The impulsivity, the ability, this concept of saying yes, like living that with ADHD can be dangerous. It can, like so. I've been fortunate to, you know, zigged instead of zagged and some of the choices that I made that have made my life really interesting. I just avoided the trap narrowly. Um, Again, that would be another podcast in itself, talking about some of those life decisions. Um, so this idea of living to 100 is what am I going to do with those 46 remaining years? It's a very real and overly pragmatic way to sort of think about your life, but you know, I'm sitting on the shoulders of like even more recently, like Matthew McConaughey, how he sort of like popped up in my philosophical kind of think space. Um, Obviously the Stoic stuff, obviously the book club, the accumulation, this accumulated thought has really uh, all these thoughts about around the question of what does it mean to live well, but paralleling that with I've got 46 years left to kind of think about this and what is it that I want to keep adding to it. So the ADHD thing is part of that. Um, I'm leaning towards not actually um, going the route of doctor's appointments and psycho eval and then medication. Um, I could go the route. I could go the route because I mean I have privilege, and I could use that for the benefits to get the psych report and get the piece of paper. Do I just need to have that truth that I am that the external assessment that agrees with what I know in my heart, or do I just kind of say let's keep looking into this and let's do it with non-traditional, let's say, or say more traditional, non-scientific approaches. Go deeper into meditation, movement, you know, activities that will make me present in my life. I don't
I'm
know.
yeah, and I'm happy to be part of this journey with you and
Hmm.
to hear you talk more about. I think you should do it. I think you should friggin' do it. And I'll tell you why.
The doctor route.
Yeah, the psych
Hmm.
assessment route. I think you should do it. Um, why not, man? Midlife, you're on the road to 100. This is great knowledge and understanding for you and awareness. Why not? Have the professional do what they've been trained to do. Grab it, stick it under your belt, and know some things about you right now that you think you know,
Hmm.
but come at it from an empirical uh, process in that world. I
Hmm.
think you should do it. Last, strangely enough, my family and I were having this kind of conversation yesterday about a psychological assessment that I had done when I was in grade 12 or 13, in fact. And man, it blows my mind that back then my parents paid out of pocket
I
to
was going
have,
to ask. I was going to
yeah,
ask is relatively speaking, probably the same cost.
well, probably, and my parents didn't have that money. So,
Hmm.
like, and I'm very aware of that. I have no, I'll tell you what happened. They screwed themselves. My parents screwed themselves, and I'll explain. So, culturally, when I was a kid, I had a pediatrician. My doctor was a pediatrician. So, um, and this pediatrician was Egyptian. So she spoke Arabic and she understood our culture. And whenever we'd go to the doctor, the waiting room would just be filled with Arab kids. So this doctor was everybody was like, oh, you need a pediatrician? Call this doctor and hope to God that she'll take you because she understands us, right? Which makes me laugh now. So what happened was in grade 12, I was struggling. I was struggling with my learning. And my parents were struggling because my father had this idea that I could be an engineer or a doctor. The the typical immigrant, we're coming
Hmm.
to Canada and you're going to make something of yourself. You're going to be an engineer, you're
Hmm.
going to be a doctor.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm too dumb. Like I can't learn. So how can I go be an engineer type of thing, right? So they made the mistake of calling the pediatrician and saying we need you to meet with Roland. And when I went to meet with the doctor, I remember sitting down in her office and she just was asking me, so what's going on with school? How are things going? And I just explained, like, I can't seem to remember things. I don't understand things in class. And the doctor said to my parents, I wasn't privy to the conversation, but the doctor obviously said, you should get your son an assessment, take him to a psychologist and have them have them learn about his learning profile. And I guess that my parents had such regard for her, and she's the doctor and she knows our culture, and she
Hmm.
said, take Roland here. And I went to a psychologist and I had an assessment done. And it kind of breaks my heart now that I think about it because I have no idea how my parents paid for that. And as you know, I've talked to you about this before. When we were growing up, I was very aware that my parents didn't have the financial means to do a lot of things. So, long story short, we got the results of the assessment, and at that time, they gave my parents the option of, we can tell you what our results are, but if you want it on paper, if you want a report on paper, you have to pay more. So my parents were like, we don't want the report, just tell us the results. Which I kind of feel is a little bit, I kind of feel like a little bit it's unethical because you have this service done and you pay for the service. And who knows, maybe somebody else paid for it. I don't know. But I'm assuming my parents paid for it. And
Hmm.
then it was extra for the report on paper. I remember that. My parents declined because I guess they didn't want to spend the money for the report. So it turns out I have a math disability. And last night the joke was, as we're eating dinner, I referred to it as a reading disability, and my wife is like, Roland, no, it's a math disability. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like confusing my disabilities as I'm eating my burger and enjoying myself. And my son is looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know, as I'm just enjoying my dinner. It was a great moment of me just being good with me. So dude, make sure you get the report on paper because I went on to university. I went on to university where I think I could have had accommodations and
Hmm.
I could have had things that would have helped me boost my demonstration of learning, but my parents were like, we don't have the money for the report. They must have paid for the assessment because they're like, no, we don't have any more money to give you. And then I remember I was sitting with the psychologist and she went over the results and dude, I was like 17. I wasn't what was I just kept the one thing I needed to keep, which was the diagnosis. I don't know anything else. Um so I say you do it. I would love to do it. I would love to do it. Um but I think I need to look at my benefits because we just did one for my oldest, so we may be tapped out for a couple of years. So maybe when the kids are all like we've done theirs and they're off to the races, I can get one done for me because
Hmm.
I'd like to know with all this knowledge and understanding I've gained over the years and life experience, have I gotten any smarter? Have I improved with my mathematics? I'll tell you, my wife laughs at me because I'm not very good with measurement in general, and spatial sense is horrible, but it's improved. It's improved And I love this, the technology of 3D printing and my involvement in it. I can now, my spatial sense has improved because
Mm,
of that experience with those things, twisting shapes and all that stuff. I can see that in my mind now because I've had a model in front of me.
right.
So anyway, I think you should do it.
I gotta check my benefits and see what I'm covered for. Because the other part too is, so here's where I kind of think, I do want to know, do I think that I should be using my own benefits to do it? Absolutely. Is it that important that I want to pay out of my own pocket?
Me,
I don't know.
I hear
I
you.
don't know. Yeah, so this is the other thing, right? To sort of not to get it done while I'm still OSSTF member and I can benefit from my own benefits. My family benefits greatly. I find often I don't benefit from my own benefits as often as I think I should. So,
I think look into it, and if you can do it because right now you have the benefits, right?
yeah.
Rochelle says it probably made me a better math teacher, which Rochelle's hilarious because I have to tell you, one of the happiest moments I've had in my teaching career is when I moved to high school and realized I never had to teach math again, which is ironic because a lot of the kids that end up in the monitoring room need help with math. So I find
Hmm.
myself learning their math enough so that I can try to be helpful. But the 3D printing stuff was, oh my God. I was so I was like a kid in a candy store dealing with measurement and spatial and all that stuff because I felt like I could finally understand it. I could finally understand it in a way that brought me joy. And the kids who engaged with all the 3D printing stuff, they sure demonstrated understanding in a way that was pretty cool to me. So I think what made me an okay teacher was that I was interested in trying these cool things that brought me some joy so I can connect good good feelings with school. And I hope that I was able to do that for some kids too.
Hmm. We just had that exact same conversation. Is that learning strategies, like being a spec ed teacher, has really that for some, and I've kind of tried to work against this. For some, it becomes this impossible task because you're confronted with this thing of content specialty. And I think that if a learning strategies teacher, so this is specific language to high school, because I don't, excuse me, maybe you say this in elementary, I don't know. But on my board, to be a learning strategist, which is something that tried to brand myself firmly, even to people talking, like I don't call myself a CERT very often, the special education resource teacher. I actually call myself a learning coach or a learning strategist. And at the time when I first started thinking that way, it was more cheeky than anything. Like, really, it was just me being cheeky. But at the heart of it, the reason that I do that is to honor and highlight what I've actually learned to do, which is to be an amplifier, a clarifier, an organizer of other people's thinking. Like that's the catalyst I want to be for students. And when I was an alt ed teacher for a little bit, and alt ed teachers are confronted with this also, this idea that as the alt ed teacher, you are the dark side of a spec ed teacher, because in that space, you actually are the person that has to teach all these courses. And in some ways, also have some understanding of special education or alternative ways, personalized and alternative ways of reaching students, right? So we were just talking the other day that there's really only one person in our current spec ed team that is deep in mathematics and science for that matter. And she's on the cusp of retiring. And we all were sort of talking like we when we're called because the way our resource room works a little bit differently, we always have EA support in there, and the certs, the strategists, kind of circle in and out and in and out. I think there's a real need to start reducing the footprint of these resource rooms and building a structure such that the actual learning strategists can go in and be in the classrooms. So you don't have the burden of having to learn the content. You can come in and observe the strategy and give the kid real time adjustments, like almost like chiropractic, right? Do this, don't do that. Think about it this way, don't think about this. Here's a tool. Don't stop using that pen, use the pencil instead. That you can give real time feedback. Because I do feel that in conversation with other uh, strategists, that they're feeling this pressure to have to be able to understand the math at secondary, to understand the science, to understand the history. You don't. It's not a part of the job description. But these learning spaces or these resource spaces are being used kind of in that way. So people are being asked to be in these spaces that the kids are having this expectation of being retaught the lesson. And I don't believe that certs, resource teachers, learning strategists should be reteaching the lesson unless they're actually the content teacher or an alt ed teacher.
Here, here. I don't disagree with that at all. If anything, I have found myself just having to have some kind of base understanding so that if a student says, "Am I on the right path here?" I can just look, and there's nothing worse than saying to a kid, for me, "I have no idea," because it's like there's no hope there. So,
Wait. The kid saying it or the teacher saying it?
no, me saying it to the kid when they're like, "Hey, can you give me a hand with this?"
But therein lies the beauty of opportunity because then you shift into what your toolkit is. How do we figure this out? And,
That's
I,
what
and
I
I'm
that's what I was just about to say. So what ends up
mhm,
happening is that, well, I'm not a complete moron. So let me tell you, like, so then you're right. It becomes more about strategy and
mhm,
making connections. And I guess I did this all week where a kid would say, "Oh, I don't know what to do here with this question." I'm like, "What does it remind you of? What else is on your test or in your notes that you can make a connection to?" It's you're not living in this black box. There's stuff all around you. You just need to look around, make these connections, and more often than not, kids end up realizing there are clues everywhere. I'm just so focused on this one thing and this feeling of I don't know what to do, that I don't stop and think about how to be a strategist, how to look for clues or make connections. Um, so that's thank you for that, because now I'm a little bit more aware that that's what I end up doing. So instead of just looking
mhm.
at the paper saying I can't help you and walk away, it's like, well, I don't know the content, but I can talk about learning and I can talk about demonstrating your learning, and we go from there. Most of the time it works. Sometimes the kid just looks at me and I'm like, and then a couple of times I've said to kids, and these are repeat people in the room, I've said, this is getting old. And they're like, "What's getting old?" I'm like, "You know you have a test, but you don't do anything to prepare yourself for the test. And you come
Mhm.
here and you expect me to support you during the test." I'm like, "Your IEP accommodations don't say that Mr. C has to stand beside you and walk you through the test.
Mhm.
It says I can repeat questions to
That's a
you."
really good point. That's a
I
really good point.
I'm saying that now to the students that are showing up more often than not. And I'm like, what are you doing here? What's your role here? You walk
I
in and then you for lack of a better word, you start shitting on me. I'm here to support you, but you're not doing anything to support yourself. This is
I
getting
had a
old.
I had a parent in a conversation this week ask me, is student expected? So the parent wanted, okay, so until our IEPs are ready on October 15th. That's when the paper copy goes home. Everything's kind of in draft mode in our digital platform. So the digital platform, all teachers can access for view only. If you're a strategist, you have access to editing, but everybody else can view. So they can see, go in and check any student. And the attendance software that we use flags the kids so you know the kids in your class that have an IEP. I don't have to do a damn thing to inform teachers that exceptional students are in their class. The teachers are expect. Do I? Sure, I do. I still give heads up on stuff. The teachers are expected to go in and look at this data themselves and to build and act accordingly. A parent was asking for the list of accommodations. What accommodations should my kid be expecting to receive in class? And what I do is I just go into our the repository where the draft version is. I copy paste, put that into an email. I'm like, here you go. And they're aligned under instructional accommodations, environmental accommodations, and assessment accommodations. The response from the parent was, is my child expected to advocate for them these as well? No, that's not how they said it. I have to remember how they said it. It wasn't as well. See if the actual thing comes up. Sometimes the app that I use to communicate with parents isn't. Okay. So the parents said, so is student expected to advocate for themselves about these accommodations? And my response back to that was, good evening. I said, it's all of us advocating, me, the guardians, and the student. I said, the teachers do review the IEPs for each exceptional student. The documents are stored virtually in a secure digital information system that all teachers have access to. I said, often the student will be the first point of advocacy as they are the first to see the teaching style, first to see the assignment, and often the first to notice that they need help. I said, usually I or the parents are the second layer. I check in weekly, blah, 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 how I sort of support. But the question from the parent is poignant because I think this is a general mindset that the accommodations are only there in service to the child from the outside. The child isn't expected to sort of roll using these accommodations as well. And I told my own crew that I'm teaching learning strategies too. I said, you are the center of your IEP. So pretty much what I said to the parent, that the kid is the first one to notice. And I said, because of that, you are the most effective advocate. You providing your information, you sort of talking to the teacher, you talking to me, you talking to your parents. I said, I will help you be clear. I will help you be slightly dispassionate so that you can talk about it in a way that's useful. Um, but I do think that resource teachers have done a disservice to exceptional students by not keeping the accommodations externalized, and they house it inside themselves like you are the only one that can help this kid. Now that is an entirely valuable mindset, but if the kid doesn't develop the agency and the ability to generalize the skill that they get from Mr. Chidiak, then that means every single time that they are approaching a learning cycle, they have to leave the class, they have to sort of leave the experience of learning, and it becomes secondhand. And I don't dispute the fact that kids do need alternative spaces, but I say, generally speaking, learning strategists are being expected to reteach the lesson. So I think that's a problem in special education spaces. And I think it's a problem that was created out of good intention, but I also think it also has, it relieves the burden, it relieves the maturity and the skill development from the students a little bit too much. And then you receive a student in grade 9 who has been on this path for a little while, and they may sort of use words like, well, you're just not helping me. So they can't, right? And it isn't true, even though it may be a truth. Sorry, it may not be real despite the fact that it's a truth for the kid. It's just their experience in the past has been probably overly supportive and not a coach. It's the kid hasn't been coached to improve.
So I really like this, and I'm going to be using this moving forward. I'm going to continue to I'm going to continue to work on that because um, I've said many times in the last year, it'd be awesome if I could get a package of notes from the math class that this kid is in so that I can familiarize myself with some of it, just so that it's nice to have, for me, it's nice to have a base knowledge of something,
Hmm.
right? Or at least a refresher, because I did pass these courses when I was in high school. Um, but I agree with you that, um, and this has come up again this year, this idea that let's really think about removing the student from the room before we do it. So
Hmm.
I had a great conversation with a student and a math teacher recently, a grade 12 student and a newer math teacher. The grade 12 student was in the room writing his test, and he kept asking questions. And I'm like, dude, I, I'm not familiar with this concept. Like I don't know how to do this math. And again, it was like, you're going to be writing your tests in here. So what are you doing to prepare? Because I can't help you. I don't want to either, because it's that whole reteaching thing. You're here to do a test. That means things have happened that have led you to this moment, right? And in this moment, you're supposed to show your learning. So if you're not prepared to show your learning, that's a conversation you should be having with your teacher. So there's like, I end up getting like the butt end of the situation because the teacher's like, no, they're writing today. And the kid's like, oh, I'm writing today, but I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm the one who's with them. So I said to the kid, is it really beneficial for you to be in here to write your tests? And I'm not saying that because I want to get rid of you or anything, but we need to stop and think here for a minute. Is it beneficial for you to be in here writing with the questions you have that can't be answered properly?
Hmm.
And maybe your math teacher would say to you, I'm not going to answer that question because it's going to get to the heart of what you're supposed to know. So, no, I'm not answering that question. Or remember this or remember that, right? Like teachers, they know, they taught the lessons, they know the kid, they work with the kid, they know what to do, how to do it, what's appropriate. And then I had the same conversation with the math teacher. I said, should he really be here? Yes, I know his IEP says he can write in another room. I'm not saying don't give him his accommodations. I'm saying, have you two had a conversation, or are you both so black and white that you're like, I gotta leave the classroom for a test, and the teacher's like, get out of here. You don't write tests in here. Like, can we stop and think for a minute? Let's, if we have a relationship with the kid and we understand what the kid might need and when the kid might need it, then let's do that. So I feel more comfortable now having those conversations with teachers, saying, do they really need to be in here? What is the purpose of them being in here? Is it just because it's on a piece of paper and you are sticking to that?
So I've stopped saying need and started saying purpose. And I find that shift, I don't know if I'll end with that word, but the I need useful for de-escalation, emotional, actual things, but I'm finding it's less effective when we're talking about tactics, learning skills, and understanding. It'll inevitably, the word need for me is way too, and I think for teenagers specifically, way too entrenched in emotional thinking. So someone says, I need to write in another room. My immediate follow-up is, it's one of two things. What's the purpose in writing in another room? If they say to have a quiet space, I will say the evidence is that this room is quiet. This room is quiet right now. So your need and purpose are both being fulfilled. Well, I need to be able to talk to the teacher. I said, okay, for what purpose? To understand what these questions are about. I said, okay, there are no teachers that can give you the mathematical understanding in that other room. That person is only in this room. So the purpose that is framed with the need doesn't match up. You will not have that person. It will not be purposeful. Sometimes I would say skilled or unskilled decision making, but I think purpose makes it more clear. If the need is right now, I am so scared and emotionally anxious to write in front of everybody because I think I might have a meltdown or a breakdown, then I might say, okay, so where would be the best place for you to write it? Or is even now the best time for you to write it? So all of a sudden you crack open the need toolkit a little bit as to what is it actually you need right now. Because that is a tool for de-escalation, right? What do you need? When you are capable, I'm going to wait, and then the next thing, if you can, you're going to tell me what you need. I need a drink of water. Good. I'll get you a drink of water. No, I need to walk to get to water. Okay, so is it that you need to move or you need a drink of water? So let's just kind of like always make sure we're in the same conversation. This really pisses people off to sort of talk like this. But I've found that what we're able to do is get a better understanding of what's actually going on. Need and purpose. I love sort of playing those two spaces. I find that grade nines are more open to this kind of agitation, but they don't quite understand why you're doing it. Grade 12s are open to it and do start to understand why we're talking this if we've done the work along the path. And I think only because some of the shortcuts, it reminds me of I worked with a student that um, I worked with a student that had a form of seizure. So seizuring is actually part of a it's almost like a spectrum just a spectrum health disorder. The reasons that your bodies can seizure, that you can go into seizure, there's quite a few different reasons that this can happen. For this particular child, they actually do do have they do have a condition that leads to like the big seizures, kind of like these grand mal seizures. That experience of having their body, the sort of like physiological memory of going through that, has created mental grooves for them such that they can be medicated to keep the actual big grand mouse from happening. But because of its impact on the body, the synaptic connections fire off for these seizures or a type of seizure when they start to get high anxiety or overexertion. So it's what they call them is pseudo seizures. The body actually isn't going through the full spectrum of activity that a seizure normally entails, but there's enough of the actual sort of keystone moments. It's like a seizure light. And the fascinating part of this is that the reason that the body follows that is because it is so ingrained from the real seizures. So I think about this example a lot about how our sometimes behaviors follow a familiar pattern, but it's not the actual original pattern anymore. It's just the easiest path to get to what we need. And it was amazing learning to learn with and about this kid and their health challenges because it gave me so many stops where I was just like, this is just kind of mind blowing that the body could do this. And then to now make a parallel, a very low calorie parallel to how some exceptional students have probably had a really hard, powerful start point to why, you know, their need, their emotional status, to maybe why they don't like science. But the current situation is just an echo of what originally happened. But the path to get support is the exact same. And I would argue it's too much, it's too structured, and it's off target, especially when we start to mix the need and purpose. We can start to see, no, we need to make some adjustments here because I do understand the things you need, but those emotional needs can be satisfied here in the room if we just do a few tweaks, and the actual purpose of you learning can be satisfied by making some better decision making. Thus, for me, it's more important to have enough certs to go into classrooms to co-teach and co-design than to have a fully, 2, 3 rooms of resource support. That's my TED talk.
Got it. Um, Here's a great image of you as the learning strategist.
Although I will argue, the only thing I would argue, I would rather have you hold me holding a wrench, do it with a wrench, with like fire coming off the wrench, because the other parts of this that's really important to me is that there's no effing magic here.
I was just about,
I'm
yeah.
using psychology, I'm using sociology, I'm using understanding of humans, I'm using compassion and love. I'm using these things that are actual learnable tools. Some people might be good about it, good, but yeah, the magic part, the magic actual element of it, no magic. Yeah, holding a wrench or whatever would be. I can just see it being a. Um, you could have a wrench with some sparkles coming off it, maybe fireworks. But yeah, I've experienced that way too much. That idea in the past that well, that the magic is being done, and in doing the magic, the kid is ascending to the next level, but all it is like Stargate Defender. Remember that game?
Yeah.
You're hitting a portal, and you're warping to another place. You have no more resources, you have no more skill set, and you have this stunning moment of where am I on the map? It's no different for the kids that the magic is used for. They have this stunned kind of like, okay, what do I do now? Arriving in this next level up without any sort of the building blocks that you need.
I had a smile on my face when I saw, so I created mine, which was intentionally
Yeah.
uh, a magical theme, and then I jumped right into yours, and I was, oh, he's gonna say something about the magic because it's not magic; it's hard work.
I
Um,
like that you know that about me. I actually deeply appreciate that as that happened, you're like, and I would hope that you would almost be disappointed if I didn't call it out.
well, I know it so well at this point
Yeah,
that it's like, and I'm the same as you. I know there's no
sure.
magic. It's work, it's effort, it's messy. So before I let you go, I'm just creating
Mhm.
a new. I said to chat, no magic, just hard work. So let's see what it creates here. And then as soon as this logo is done, I'm good to go. If you're good to go,
Yeah, for sure. Can I ask you something just before we bust out? So,
of course, this is
is your board? And happy
thanks,
to have
Gary.
you along, Gary. Yeah, happy to have you along in this. Um, and Shids and I have talked about the no magic, and what I love. I'm actually thinking back to last year as you were coming into the role at high school, and AI would be able to account for this. We did talk a little bit about. Okay, now I look like I run Amazon or something, right?
Professor
Yeah,
Fluff.
no
Yeah,
one's no one's trusting that guy. It looks like it's like I'm on the face of a cereal box or something. So the and at this particular point, I do have hair, so then I'll just say that. The last year calling out the moment that yours and my conversations, the parallels, now that you're sort of seeing it in the high school space. I love that we've arrived there, that you are now like you get it. I think we both got each other's portfolios previously, but now that you're here, the conversations and the things that we're addressing, it's like this is gold. It really is gold. That's the first thing. The second thing, are you folks like a Google Apps, Google Classroom board? Like, is this something that's actively used for you?
we still have the Google tools like Docs and stuff, but no, we don't.
You're
Classroom, we don't use Classroom anymore.
anymore, so you moved on.
Yeah.
Okay, so what platform are you using?
We use Brightspace D2L as
Okay,
our home for like classes landing there.
got you.
And then
So
OneDrive is, we use OneDrive and Google Docs stuff. I think we
okay.
moved away from Classroom. I guess anything we have to pay for, we're not going to be using. So
Mm. Okay, so our board is still the reason I ask is that I've started to play around with something called Notebook LM, and Notebook LM is an AI research platform that's embedded in the Google Drive and also in Google Classroom.
so
So,
so
and I've
Notebook. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, Notebook LM, and
I've
it's
used it, but it won't work it won't work on our school board accounts. I have to use
yeah.
it on my personal account.
Yep. So I've started to kind of, they reintroduced it. I had heard about it a few months back and then it popped up. That and Google Vids. I mean, do you folks have that too? Google Vids. So Google Vids is where you can take content and it's kind of like a video editor, I
Hmm.
guess. A little bit like a video editor. Um, and I've also put my name in for, we have an opportunity for learning this year where there's 4 or 5 release days to be a part of the digital learning network for my board. And the focus this year is ethical implementation of AI tools.
Very cool.
So yeah, I thought so. I think I'm interested to do that. So I'll find out on the 10th. So I'll find out next Friday if if I've been accepted into it. I had to write a little pitch paragraph about the tools that I'm using. Um, and it was heavily, well, I mean, I spoke about all the AI kind of tools, stuff I can do with spreadsheets and spell check and all that kind of bullshit. But then I also laid out a very robust uh, list of the things that I'm doing with ChatGPT. It says professionally, which I always feel like that's because professionally, you're not encouraging the kids to use it as part of classroom experience, but professionally, it's okay to use it to help design your own stuff and do your own research. It's a funny little space to be. So I figured by being at that table, I'm going to hear more about what is the board's position on actually developing teachers to use the tools before they're fully released to the students. That's what I want to hear. Not just things as professional development, but how they perceive the seasoning from that professional development making it down to the students. And I openly tell the students that I use chat for different things. I tell it to them. But I also point out to them, do you see me walking over and looking at any of my resources as I teach you? I've learned this. I know this stuff. I can be in front of you and teach you and lead you without checking my Coles notes. So I said, unless you're doing that to be able to do your work as well, then you're currently not using chat properly. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I just thought I would drop that.
I like that. I got stuck on release time for PD, and I thought, let me get back into my DeLorean because I think those days are coming back to my district, but they've been gone for so long that it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's now normal. It's like, what do you mean I can leave the school and go learn something on
Mm-hmm.
your dime, right?
Yeah. Well, release time means it's double layered, right? We as individuals can always be released to go do these things. But when they say they provide release time, what that means is they're going to provide money to the school to cover
Hmm.
on call. So
See,
that's where principals say yes, because they don't have to take from their own pool, right?
right, right. Um, yeah. Anyway, and now hilariously enough, at this point in the game in my career with the work I'm doing, I don't want to leave the building to go do
Hmm.
anything because it just means I can't get my job done, which
So
is
that's key
whacked.
too. No. So that's why first date is until November. So it's positioned well. So what that means is I'll be done IEPs. My show, see, this is the things that cracked off. The show that I'm in will be just coming up to show week. So I'm starting to see relief. So it's well, I'll have open time. I'll have time to sort of think about this. Nice.
I'm gonna keep this one. It's
I
yeah, I'm
think
gonna
that's a
keep
good
this
one.
one. Whenever I need to, somebody says something that reminds me of the past, I'm just gonna be like, check it.
Back to
Get
the future, baby.
I'm getting into my DeLorean. I love how it took my face and the color of shirt that I was wearing in the picture I gave it, and
Hmm.
gave me jeans and shoes that, and I look pretty strong. Like that one arm looks pretty jacked.
It is. It's good. It's good.
Anyway, back in time, baby.
Hmm.
Wow,
You
today was.
almost you
Oh,
almost
sorry.
look too burly to have gotten out of that car. It's like look at this Goliath getting out of this DeLorean. That's awesome.
Okay, yeah, I got to keep that one. It's got to be on the phone so I can refer to it instantly.
Good stuff.
We're good.
We're good.
Thanks, Gary and Rochelle, for checking us out live and jumping
Hmm.
in. We appreciate it. Um, Chris, thanks for your time today. I
Welcome,
wasn't
dude.
sure. I wasn't sure what direction we were going to go in, but hey, we did our thing. We
We
did our
found our way.
yeah. This was season 9, episode 5, number 353 of the Decoded podcast. Have a good one, man.
Peace, man. I'll connect with you later.
You got it.